So I inherited a lot of the house, which we had Marsha Hines do. But I always wanted a lesson in embalming and all that stuff because I had to kind of know how that worked. And we did have a specialist on the show. Larry Teeters was his name. And he'd always come in and he'd be all excited about which episode. We'd have a death at the beginning of every episode, and we wanted to keep it kind of real and what it really looked like. And he'd be so excited to like come into the production meeting and be like, oh my God, here's what it looks like when somebody's head's smashed. I just had somebody like that. And everybody would cringe and they're like, do we really need to see that? He's like, no, it's really cool. Like, this is how it works. So, we kept it at a minimum, some of that stuff, but he would work with the special effects, makeup people and all that. So we didn't have to like partake in all that. But again, I became the queen of death is what it feels like. Everybody's like, oh, you know so much about like mortuaries and this and that. And they'd always call me and like, if you're doing like a Y incision in somebody and you're embalming somebody, like, oh boy. So yeah, so I had to learn a lot. And I think the funniest experience with death on that show is, well, first of all, everybody, after they finished that show, wanted to be cremated. Knowing the process, nobody wanted to be embalmed or buried. And they would always be like, well, why would you not cremate yourself? Like, why would you take 10 years to do something that you can do in like 5 minutes? So that was interesting. But also like meeting all the different people that are associated with death. I had to learn how to build a retort, which is what they burn your body in. So they took us on a tour of one of the real places, and they were telling us about, how it works and their worst nightmares, like a very heavy-set woman or somebody with like metal pieces in them because it could explode the machines. And we're like, okay. And then they're like, and then we're done. And then we take like the bone cruncher and we put the remains in there and we finish it off. And we're just like horrified, right? And then like, but we have a body here. Like, would you like us to burn it? And we're like, nope. We'll just imagine what's kind of going to come of that. So we did not do any of that. But they did want to hug us afterwards. They're like, people are usually like scared of us, because we deal with death. And so when we were leaving, they were like all giving us hugs, and they were just like, oh, thank you for being interested in what we do and what this process is. So I did learn more than I ever thought I would.